I'm not ready to go yet, okay? I'm not ready. You gotta wait. I got shit to do. I'm in the middle of something, all right? Just hold on.
Watch your mouth or don't come in here.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, people, come on, we're adults here.
You know what? What is the point?
Yeah, we're adults here. I got a fucking Burger King fucking thing on my head. We're all fucking adults here, guys. People, in my chat, 2 words. What are they? 2 words. Let me see the chat flood. Let me see the chat flood. 2 words. Okay, next caller. Please. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, which translate in American to dick and balls.
I got flip-flops. These are my flip-flops. Yeah, I really like my flip-flops because I can put them on. Because look, watch me put them on. I can put them on all by myself. Watch me put them on. Look, are you watching? Look, these are my flip-flops.
Thanksgiving Day. I remember it clearly. It was Thanksgiving Day. I was inserting myself in somebody else's fucking business as a cash grab, and you know.
This channel is harsh reality.
Karen Yak se jodió la sucia vida. Amen.
This is Jonathan Lee Riches. I have cheeseburgers. I'm gonna put cheese on them. I'm gonna make sure that I have my hamburgers because I'm a big boy now and I can make the hamburgers. My mom lets me use the stove now.
And I'm just like, wow, I like receipts, and they brought receipts. Like they had evidence to back up everything they said. And I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be another side to this, right? Like this can't, no, this is too fantastic.
Yeah, because you're not going to just jump to the conclusion that there's a conspiracy amongst cops to cover up a murder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, cops and just like soccer moms and shit. Like that's what made it even crazier. Like,
yeah, get it, Betty. Yeah,
did you have a close relationship with your mom?
Get it, Betty.
Oh, of course, I still do.
Yeah.
My older sister was kind of sad. She was more of the prissy girl that like
that is the best shit fucking
shopping
ever.
for dresses with mommy. I was the tomboy that like playing with the kids.
Shout out to Cherry for just being easily the most faithful and loyal supporter that I've ever had, man. That someone could have that tenacity with loyalty. And I'm really blessed to have someone like Cherry be part of this channel and in my life. So it means a lot. And yes, I named him after Mr. T and Rocky. Say, woman. Say, woman. Say, woman. Since your old man ain't got no heart, why don't you come down to my apartment tonight and I'll show you a real man. Oh my God, I'm so in love with this little dude. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I love you guys very, 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 very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends. Oh, say bye. Say bye. Oh, I love you too. Give me a kiss. Oh, I love you. Bye, guys.
Karen left
people. Many of you I'm seeing for the second time today. Twice as nice people. Oh my goodness. I am so excited for this. And I want to first off thank all of you for believing in Karen Reed's innocence so much that you donated in order for Nick to be able to put together this very special live. I am grateful and I am honored to get to host this. All of the muscle behind this has been the Roccos and Cherry for putting together the video here. So I want to thank them. And actually, let me go ahead and do this real quick and bring on Nick. Nick, what's up, buddy?
What's going on? How we doing?
Doing great. I got Susan backstage. I don't want to keep her waiting too long, but
yeah, she got on because she was saying she was having trouble, so at least she got on.
Okay.
So I just wanted to come on real quick because I actually want to watch this show. So I just wanted to thank you, Will, for hosting this tonight. When you were live earlier, we had talked, and I think it was around, $3,400 or something like that. So we're almost pretty much at $4,500 raised for this show. And just today, I knew it was going to happen. They started flooding in. I think just 150 alone today. So thank you to everybody who did donate. And I also want to thank Susan for giving up her Saturday night to do this for us. She is donating her time because this is for Karen Reed and this is for a good cause. So thanks, Will. I appreciate it, dude.
Dude, $4,500, man. Dude, we gotta hear. Nice. And here, tell Susan yourself. Susan, welcome.
Hi there, Rocco. How's it going?
How you doing?
Good. So sorry for the confusion there. I couldn't get it on my computer, but anyway,
No,
we're
it's all
set.
right.
I gotta tell you, I'm really excited to have you on, Susan. I'm slightly familiar with some of your work, and I'm really excited to get started and get on this. I don't know how much time you have, but Cherry, my managing moderator, my right hand, put together basically a compilation of some testimony. So we'll try to get through that, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I didn't get to talk to you backstage before this started, but I'll just say here, I don't censor myself here. If you got to drop an F-bomb, knock yourself out. Nobody here's going to judge you for it. Enjoy yourself. This is not an interview. I'm not a journalist. You're just somebody that I'm just very interested in picking your brain and talking to. And I am so excited to do this. So thank you so much for joining us.
I'm doing this on behalf of Rocco, and he's been everywhere, and I really admire his tenacity. So, and I think it's for a great cause because I do support Karen Reed.
I appreciate that.
I love it.
So, Will, before I hop off, I just want to say what we have going on in the page. An auction ends tonight at 8:00 for 4 Tom Brady Hall of Fame induction tickets. The top bidding price is $600. That ends at 8. Tomorrow, the makeup giveaway, I believe the top bid right now is $225. That ends tomorrow at 5:00. And the St. Martin trip is still up, and the Italy trip is still up. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to look forward to watching the show.
Yeah, I almost wish I was just watching it. If I'm being honest.
All right, I'm gonna head out of here though. All right.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you, buddy.
Thank you, Susan.
All right.
You're welcome.
Nick Rocco, everybody. Okay. Sorry about that. I had a little technical glitch there. So can you give us a little bit of background, like how you got started doing this, what your education is, just basically the basics, why you took interest in this case, and how you got to the point to where you became a Karen Reed supporter?
Well, first of all, I'll start with the last one. I'm not a supporter of anybody. I'm a supporter of innocence. So that's what I'm a supporter of. My background is I have a master's degree in psychology. I have gosh, an entire wall full of certifications and everything from reading facial expressions to statement analysis, voice stress analysis, how to spot, a dangerous person, threat analysis. My career, and I don't want to bore you with all that. You're welcome to look at my CV on my website at susanconstantine.com. So anyway, I've been a trial consultant since since 2008. I worked for a company called JuryQuest. We did the retrial on the Andrea Yates case that found her guilty by reason of insanity. And then my career inside the courtroom and profiling, deselecting jurors, that's where I started. And then literally the media caught on to me, and there you go. I've been on over 2,000 national appearances, continue to do it. So literally all I do is just share my expertise with others and help them to determine if someone is being truthful or not.
I love it. Thank you. I got to tell you, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about some of this testimony. Have you been following the case closely?
Not entirely closely, but I've watched enough. In fact, what I did was at CrimeCon. I don't know if you knew I was a speaker there. I did a 1 hour training on You've Been Summoned, and I used the Karen Reed case as an example. And so I showed different clips of the Karen Reed case and different key points of evidence, and actually had over a 4,000 person jury. I call them my whisper jurors, which were in my audience, voting on guilt or innocence, credible or not credible. So I'll be happy to share with you what those results were.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to hear anything that you've got to contribute here. Yeah, so Cherry put together a little compilation here. And then because I don't mean to sound like I'm rushing. There is no rush. I just don't want to take up too much of your time, and I want to be able to get as much of your insight as possible without you feeling rushed. So
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you.
no, thank you. So I guess the first one here, I haven't even watched this yet, but the first one here is going to be Julie Nagel, who, as you guys know, she was attending the birthday party of Brian Albert Jr. inside the house, very small get together, and her brother was supposed to come pick her up, Ryan, supposedly, according to her, and she states that she saw a black blob as they were driving away. But didn't see anything in the lawn as they were walking out the front door, along with basically everyone else who's saying the same thing. They saw Karen Reed's vehicle pretty much do everything except commit the crime, which is very bizarre to me. But let's go ahead and hear what she has to say, and then we can get your thoughts on that.
You also never, ever told any investigator that this black object that you described was actually 5 feet or 6 feet long, correct?
Correct, yes.
The very first.
Now, is there anything in regards to her mannerisms currently, before she even says anything, that kind of raise red flags for you?
Yeah. So what she's doing is a grooming gesture. When you're rubbing your leg, that shows a high level of anxiety. So, but you have to, all right, let's keep this in mind. First of all, she's testifying in court. All the cameras are on her. It's going to cause anxiety. So you just have to consider the environment will also create that. So I don't have a baseline on her. So I'm only going on what I'm seeing. So grooming gestures are just little pockets of anxiety. The one thing that I do look at that I feel like she's got some issues with anger. So you can see her lips kind of pulling in and tightening. So she's either not happy about being there, or there's something in what's being asked of her is causing her to feel a slight bit of angst. And so that's what I'm seeing at the very first onset. We also see some what we call those are actually called eye closures. Now we just caught her in the middle of a blink. But the other thing is that with truthfulness, when we're looking at eye blocking, we consider that being what we call a deceptive indicator if it's held longer than 0.2 seconds plus. So now you combine that with the leg rubbing, and then a slight anger response with the pulling and tightening of the lips, I would say that this is a hot spot coming out of the gate.
Wow. Okay. So right off the bat, she's already showing some alerts.
She's alert, and that's a very good way to describe it, because I don't have a baseline on her, and I don't even know if this is her norm.
Right. Yeah, and also keep in mind, this is all going to be cross examinations where, if we had more time, I would have probably had Sherry put something together that had direct as well, so we'd have something better to compare to. But this is cross, where these witnesses are more likely to be untruthful. So this is just
Or
for the,
maybe when they're being, if it's cross examination, she's now questioned whether the veracity of what she's saying is truthful, which can create these types of indicators of fear of being disbelieved.
okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, that's interesting.
First time you're now mentioning this testimony that this black.
And anytime you need me to pause because something stands out to you and you need to comment on it, please let me know.
Object, as you describe it, was actually 5 or 6 feet long, was just today, after 12 noon on May 14th of 2024, correct?
Lally asked me how big it was, so I just told him right now, yeah.
Yeah, Lally, when you say Lally, you mean Mr. Lally?
Yes, Mr. Lally, correct, yes.
Mr. Lally just asked you during this trial, again, right before this jury, that's the first time you've ever been asked or ever given an answer as to how big that object was, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, we can stop right there. Okay, so first of all, the answer is not necessarily. And there was another comment that was made. Those questions would have been yes or no. I mean, you just right off the bat, there's no pause, there's no hesitation. You should just be able to answer that question. She is leaning in, so she's listening. She's tilting her ear, which is in a listening position. Again, what I'm looking at is her shifting of her body language. We don't see what we call a torso lift or an anchor lift when you actually sit up, move, and shift and come back down. But we do see anxiety in her. And again, her tonality sounds agitated. So I'm not sure what the background is. Was she was feeling kind of coerced or forced to testify? But I can tell you she's not happy about it. I don't think that she is happy about testifying.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that that's the case, and she becomes pretty combative as well. I remember that we don't get to really see that because again, these are cut pretty short. But let's take a look at. I think Jen McCabe is next. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about her.
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
But okay, well, we can stop right there. First of all, I'm going to stop right there. If you show that in slow motion, a little bit back, you'll see that she's seething. So there was a lot of disdain for that question. How dare you ask me? When you see those lips lift up like that in the corner, that's like a dog ready to attack. So
I got that vibe myself. Let's watch that in slow motion as you requested. Let's check that out.
Did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved. To die because he was my friend that I loved.
But he's not.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see.
John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he.
Yeah, very nasty, very nasty disposition she has.
Well, what she's responding to, the question you asked her that. Number two, she felt it was appalling that you would ask her that question because she has love for Mr. O'Keefe, and she was really put out. And so that reaction from anger and disdain, she that was geared towards the person who was asking the questions, which was, I believe, the defense attorney.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is
Yeah.
cross. So that was most likely Alan Jackson, if I remember correctly. Jackson was
Right.
cross-examining her.
Yeah, and her head nodding, that is just affirmations. Like she's just nodding, and a lot of times people will nod on the word on the punctuate a syllable. I mean, she tends to do that overall. She's just sending the signal that which was affirmative. So I would say that she believes what she's saying, and she's ticked off that the question is being asked or imposed to her, and you saw the seething.
Yeah, how dare you? Right. So now let's take some other stuff into consideration real quick, because you're aware of the 2:27 a.m. search, correct? Where she
227. Go
She
ahead.
allegedly Google searched at 2:27 a.m. how long to die in cold, but spelled how wrong and put HOS. So how long to die in cold. Then what she did was she did the same search, spelled it wrong the first time, and then did it again at 6:33 and 6:34, I believe, in the morning, a few hours later. Now, she claims that what happened was Karen, at Karen's request, she searched those, and that somehow there's some sort of excuse as to what the Celebrite report is wrong because there's a wall or something to that effect. I can't really remember the technical explanation that they have for it, but it sounds like a lot of smoke and mirrors coming from the prosecution, which is strange in and of itself. So it's like the prosecution is playing defense on this. And she's claiming that she never made the search at 2:27 a.m. That the search at 6:34 carried over to 2:27 a.m. and marked through Celebrite, which, I mean, in my opinion, would discredit the credit. It would just completely destroy the credibility of Celebrite, which would leave, I don't know how many murder cases open to trial again, to retrial, so I find that very dangerous. But now, considering the fact that she was the one to call 911, but never identified John O'Keefe as a police officer, she merely said there's a guy passed out on the lawn. Somebody who she claims to have this. The reason why I'm bringing this up is you're saying she sounds absolutely offended that she was even asked such a question. But here we hear at some point during this, we won't hear it here, I don't think, but during her testimony, that call is played for the jury, and she even ends up talking to someone else because the 911 call itself wasn't originally made to the public. It was a voicemail. Karen was calling John's phone, and then when she saw John in the lawn, she dropped the phone without hanging it up, and it left a voicemail on John's phone of Jen McCabe making the 911 call and then calling her sister, Nicole Albert, afterwards, because it's in her call log records and it is deleted. It's shown as deleted. So considering that stuff, would you say that she is lying here? That this is...
All I can tell you is that is exactly what I shared with is what her emotional responses are from the prosecutor. What I would do if this were my case or if I were hired on this case, I would have run this through also voice stress analysis, because I would have been able to see if there were some vocal tremors that were showing high stressors. Now, her voice may sound stressed, but there's a difference between feeling stress or sounding stress and actually looking for those vocal micro tremors. Okay. So when I'm analyzing this, I do a 3-prong. I do behavior, I do the behavior analysis, statement analysis, and voice stress analysis, all 3 together. And the reason why, without all the context of what you're sharing, all we can go by is if you're showing me a clip, what do I see? I can tell you what her emotional responses are. I can tell you how she's responding, how she feels about the person's interviewing her, and that's it. Because I'm not in control of the questioning. If I were in control of the questioning, I would have asked a little bit more probative questions and then gotten around it to where I could see a difference from her baseline from when she's being truthful from when she's being deceptive. So what we're missing here, a lot of these, is we don't have baselines. And so all we're going is analyzing emotional reactions to the stimulus, which is the question that was just asked.
And there's clearly an emotional response here from her. Yeah, clearly.
Visceral. It's a visceral response. It's more than just an emotional response. She has a very visceral. When we look at scorn, it's anger, contempt, and disgust, all 3. The 3 of them are what we call a dangerous cocktail of emotions. That's an attack dog response. So we see anger, disgust, and contempt together as dangerous demeanor. We see that in people that are ready to an attack, a premeditated attack. That's how she's feeling. She's feeling very threatened by this person. She's standing her ground by leaning forward with her head tilted forward. She's not backing down. She's like an attack dog. She's not gonna beckon down. No.
Huh. Wow. Now I see, the thing is, and please pardon I'm gonna have opinions, but they're not, I don't have the education and experience that you do. I just have experience with people. And this, I'm getting the vibe from her that this is normal for her, that this is the kind of thing that this is just a personality trait of hers. Because I don't know if it's shown here, but at one point when she's pressured to the point to where she has to answer yes or no questions, she's avoiding them. She's faced with the in again, like you said, she doesn't back down, even though there's no way out of this without answering yes or no. Simple, right? She's no way out of it. What she ends up doing is she brings up the fact that she's been harassed and she's had people threaten her or whatnot, and she brings up Turtle Boy, which is completely unrelated to what's happening here. And I get the vibe from her that she's doing that, and I've seen this a lot, where somebody just basically shuts down and starts to play victim when they have nowhere else to go, and they're still so steadfast to not having to answer that question and still avoid that question that they'll resort to playing victim.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. There's a term for it. It's called vulnerable narcissist.
Okay.
A vulnerable narcissist is the one that goes into the self-pity claim, the victimization. They're very thin-skinned and they're very combative. But there are also the types of people that have a high level of superiority, which you might be seeing here. So when we look at, multiple videos, and keep in mind, when I am doing my professional analysis, I am looking at multiple videos, not just one. I'm looking at multiple ones and I'm comparing and contrasting when she's being asked different probative questions and seeing how she's responding. So yes, it could be part of her personality. I would assume she doesn't walk around every single day, attacking people. I don't see her doing that. But I when I've done a lot of this analysis with some really high profile cases, I usually have got at least a half a dozen videos you compare and contrast. That's the professional way of doing it.
Right.
It's not,
I wouldn't realistically expect you to just sum her whole personality up, in her behavior in everyday life by looking at this, of course not. But I was curious if it was like indicative to other people that you've seen a million times and compared, you know what I mean? If it's
there's one couple things that happens. People that attack back, one of two things. One is they're very defensive because they're guilty. Number two is that they're acting very defensive because they're feeling threatened, and so they feel like they need to stand their ground, and then they fight back. So people become aggressive in both ways. They can become aggressive when they're innocent, because a lot of times innocent people will become very combative because they'll get very angry and they'll stand their ground. Guilty
Right.
people will also become very combative and angry too when they feel like they're losing control, and they don't feel like they have a way out. So then they become much more aggressive. So it
See,
can
I know it
happen both
seems
ways.
biased. I know it seems biased coming from me because I believe Karen to be innocent and I believe her to be a liar. But it's still one of but it's the reason why I feel this way. And besides all the facts of the case, this is a person who's coming off to me like, if she is innocent and she genuinely feels like she's being attacked, she is just going to simply answer the questions, yes or no, instead of avoiding them every time she gets. I feel like it's a sign of guilt that she ends up going the route of playing victim and still avoiding to have to answer these questions. That makes me feel like she is that determined to hide whatever she's trying to hide.
And that's a good hypothesis.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Sorry. I just get this is very, very fascinating to me. So if I go on a rant, I apologize.
That's no worries.
He was my a friend that I loved.
But he's not your family, is he?
Oh, I guess.
Family and friends.
Objection.
Sustained.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
In the morning I did, yes.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:24.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up that were all found on your phone, the one that you disavow is the one that took place at 2:27 a.m., which would implicate you and exonerate my client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently, Mr. Jackson?
Do you feel like she's absolutely like just the way that she reacts to she doesn't seem to react at all, is my point, to the objections. She knows exactly when to keep quiet and not to react. It feels like
there's one thing that you may not have seen when these are what we call micro head nods. They are very small, like almost invisible. They're very tiny. So when that question was being asked, she already knew that what was being asked to her. So there's what we call a lead up to an onset of an emotion. Okay. I'm going to get a little techie here. So she knew what that next question was going to be because she knew the time frame, the 2 o'clock one, the two, whatever it was.
right.
At that point in time, I would have wanted to see with her head already nodding either yes or no.
Because she knew what the question
To
was
the
coming.
answer. So that's what
Right.
I'm talking about. A true emotion oftentimes begins during the question at usually 1 to 2 seconds before the full question is asked. So I'm looking at this onset and when it crescendos and when it comes back down. When you're asked a yes or no question, it's very obvious in the United States. We know yes is this and no is that. But when people are, she had more of it, what we call a more of that frozen expression. Her head never moved. So that was the point where she didn't move. So if she were to disagree with that, even though there was called an objection, she would have already started to, I would have assumed, started to turning her head, slightly nodding it no, without saying the word.
Wow. Huh. Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That is, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Of those 3 searches, there was only one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete
That's not what I asked you. The one according to the Celebrate report that was deleted, the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You would agree that that's awfully convenient.
Now, what about the rapid eye blinking? Is
yeah,
that
well, there was more than that. Okay, so that's what we
Okay.
call high cognitive load. There's actually more than that. If you would have looked a little closer, and you don't know how to, this is not your business, so I'm going to show you things that I see.
no?
You might
Yeah,
have
that's why you're here.
you would have seen on her left hand shoulder, you see a shrug. You
Okay.
see a quick shrug.
Let's go back real
Okay,
quick,
and
and then we'll slow it down, and then just tell me when to.
I'll just point it out.
A.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete.
Oh, I
Right
sped
there.
it up. That's my fault. That's my fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know
I
how to
see.
go in and delete.
Right there.
A
I
search.
wouldn't have known.
Right.
Now, okay, so that is what we call a micro shoulder shrug. And that is a deceptive indicator because it is micro in nature. When you say, I don't know, its both shoulders go up. Now, when she actually pulled that shoulder forward, it was a slight micro, that was actually what we call leakage. And then you couple that with, she doesn't answer the question yes or no. So when you look at that, you put that together, and then after she's answered the question, she leans back and she flicks her hair, right? So that's kind of that indignation, that irritation. So I look for clusters. So just so your viewers are watching, is that when there is a question asked that is probative, and she is intending, or whoever is intending to I don't want to use a word lie about it. There could be a
Avoid.
partial avoid. Well, it's just like they want to recreate the response in a different way that's not the way it occurred. So it is a form of dodging. Okay. So when they do that, there is a cluster that will happen right after within 7 seconds. So you're going to see a verbal hesitation, or in hers it was, she says no. I believe that's what she says, no, but she doesn't answer the question at first until she's prodded. Then you see the shoulder shrug, which is nonverbal. So you got one verbal and not one nonverbal, and then one what we call a grooming gesture. There was like three different things. Even though she didn't touch her hair, the fact that she flicked it, that's a more of an irritation or an agitation. So she didn't like the question. Now you could say to yourself on the other end as well, she knows that question, and that's the time frame that's in question. So she was prepared for it, and you're not going to push her. She's going to stand her ground. So she's not going to give you any indication because she's now trying to control, what we call image management. She's going to control her nonverbals so that she can control what she says. But she can't. See, that's where the deception comes in, because you can either only control your nonverbals or your verbals, but it's hard to do it at the exact same time in sync. And it was
Wow.
so when you look at it in that fine tooth, you can see where there's discrepancy. So I think that he's on the right path to asking more inquiring questions.
And she's simply just not. She's not aware. She's not consciously aware that these are tells.
No.
She's not.
No.
She's. This
This
is
is what we
wild.
call leakage. It's a leakage. So what
Okay.
happens is that when you try to veer off the truth and tell something that's different than what you know to be truth, cognitive load builds, meaning there's a lot of mental stress to conceal. And then what happens when you do that? Imagine the body's like a teapot. And when the water boils, eventually what happens is the lever lifts up and the steam comes out. That's what happens to the body. They try to contain, but then that leaks out. And so
That's fascinating.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God. So like the term blowing off steam is almost literal.
Yeah. Literally, yes.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, right now she's shaking her head.
Well, that's in
And
disbelief. That's just saying that I don't agree. I just say what's happening is that she's going through a lot of internal processing. She's hearing it. She's got another dialogue that's going on inside here. So non-verbally, she's responding to her internal thoughts.
okay, wow.
Into the Celebrate report that was deleted, the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And you see, Jackson is interesting here. He's an interesting aspect of all this because I feel like he's on to everything that you're saying. He just can't explain it scientifically the way that you do. But he's catching all of this, and he is deliberately trying to elicit emotional responses from her.
Yeah, he's using the art of elicitation, and he's smart. It's
Right.
kind of in the O.J. Simpson case when they were asking, Cato Kalin questions, and when you saw the clue, he goes right in. Where he goes right in. But I
Because
gotta
he's
tell you,
patronizing her. When he goes correct, he's
yeah,
patronizing her. He's
yeah, right. Well, he's doubting her too, so he's using a tonality that is like condescending.
right. And he knows that it's making her mad. He's
Right.
doing it absolutely deliberately, in my opinion.
To elicit, and that's part of his. I've been around the block a few times in the courtroom, so
Sure.
I'm like, this is typical courtroom tactics.
Sure.
You would agree that that's awfully convenient for you, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
You see, like I even think that his delivery. Oh, my bad. I even think that his delivery is interesting because, like, in music, they'll say that the silence between the notes is obviously just as important as the notes themselves. And then there's dramatic effect when someone is doing a monologue in a play or in theater or in a film. They'll do dramatic pauses. But I feel like what he was doing was he was timing his silence in order to allow her to stew for a moment. And it's like he's conducting her emotions, as he's asking her these, and she's playing right into it. It's crazy to witness and watch him do that.
Well, actually, I learned that from you. I just now learned that from you when it came to the music part of it. So that was pretty good tell.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, keep complimenting me. I love when smart people validate my thoughts. So here we're getting into Brian Albert. This should be interesting. So Brian Albert is the owner was the owner at the time of 34 Fairview, and seems to at least have motive of cover up, but not necessarily directly of being a third party culprit. But he seems to be the big daddy behind everything, the one everybody fears. So like he's been completely elusive this entire time. He's not been seen in public. So it's interesting. This is the first time anybody sees him in a long time.
Yeah.
Just everything on it's destroyed, correct?
Right, although some of the data transfers to your new phone.
And you're aware that the very data that you were ordered to preserve.
Okay, now let me give you some context here. So he allegedly destroyed his phone after the murder of John took place, and it was after he was court ordered to not destroy or get rid of his tech, his data. So here he's being confronted about this allegation, and this is his way of defending himself against it.
Would have been destroyed, according to you, the day before. Correct?
Rephrase your question or ask me a question.
Are you claiming that you got rid of your phone on the 22nd?
I upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but yes.
So it could have been after the 22nd.
I don't think it was after the 22nd.
And then the 24th?
Is there anything that stands out to you so far about him?
Well, he doesn't agree with the questioning. First of all, if you could look at, you'd have to go to the very beginning. He does, and I've seen him and I've analyzed him this piece here a lot, and I did it. Also showed it to CrimeCon to my audience. He does. When you see this little lip movement.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's disagreement.
Huh.
So when he doesn't agree with something, you see him purse his lips like, no, that's not really how it happened. So
just everything on it's destroyed.
No, I muted it so that we could watch.
It was at the beginning. Right there. See it?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see because of his mustache and the fact that he's speaking.
Well, if you took right there, it was right there. You just missed it again. I guess I look at this every day. So
yeah. Okay. I all right. I think I just saw him do what you were talking about. And he's swallowing too.
Yeah, swallowing is a fear. Swallowing is fear. So let me tell you what he does do. I'm going to give you kind of an overview.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of his stress where he lands it is in his mouth. So, he's got the beard and the mustache, but you can also see movement or muscle movements that move the hair, moves the actually.
Right.
Okay. So I'm looking at not necessarily the shadowing because you can't really see it, but actually the movement. So he holds a lot of his disagreement and emotion all in his mouth. He keeps his eyebrows quite open. Then they stay and they remain that way. This is a person that's on high alert. Okay. When you raise your eyebrows, you are paying attention and it's frozen there. The other thing that he does is the swallowing. The swallowing after answering a question when he says, let's just say he says the word no, and if it's, you'll see him swallow. Swallow is a fear a fear response. So now, what do you look at? You look at disagreement, swallowing, high alert attention. So I'm seeing, I'm clustering these together. Further on in the video, you'll see a lot of the facial. When he's questioned more, he's unable to maintain his fairly neutral affect. Then you really see it more in his mouth, where he's swallowing a lot and he gets really frustrated, he gets annoyed, and you can see it a lot. In fact, what I did with this video, I circled all these nonverbal responses all in his mouth and his swallowing. Okay. And I repeated, I walked it through and I just threw up on the screen every time he showed these micro expressions. And then I asked the audience of 4,000, did you find that his testimony was credible or not credible? And out of 4,000 people, more than 3/4 of the people said he was not credible. So what does that tell you? We're talking about first impressions, like what you're saying. We have in the prosecutor, we all have a natural instinct when we're looking at something, when something feels off. As you stated, you may not be able to explain it as eloquently because you're not, trained
Educated.
like I am,
Yeah,
right? But you still have the instinct. So what I do is I look at, why are those clusters there? What was the stimulus that created it? And look for those micro expressions that give me indicators that that's a hot spot, that there could be possible deception.
And micro indicators, meaning like you'd really have to look for them or you'd miss them because.
Yeah, they do. They happen in 1/15 of a second.
Okay.
So they flee. A real expression there's an onset and there's a natural offset. That's like when we look at, Alice Murdoch, and he had those extreme expressions. Those onset and offset were all out of sync. Okay, they were animated and they were performed and so forth. what I'm telling you about micro expressions are leakages. They're tiny little movements that subconsciously he is completely and totally unaware it is happening. They are not, they cannot control them. So they leak out. So all of these emotions internally, anything a person is feeling internally is going to be exhibited through their body language, through their facial expressions, or their demeanor, their tone, their vocabulary. And that's why I analyze it. My team, we analyze all of those. We just looked at a video of a guy who it was an innocence project, and a guy confessed to a murder, and then he was killed 2 weeks later. Was the testimony true? So we ran it through the test, and I said the guy's truthful. We ran it through voice stress analysis. It was truthful. Ran it through voice stress analysis. He was truthful. So, and then he ends up killing himself. So was he being truthful about him admitting that he had killed 2 people? It was an admission of a confession, and it was all showing the same truthfulness across all those spectrums, all those channels. So that's why it's important when you're really doing this stuff more, I wouldn't call it, it's not forensic science, but you use people that are on my team that are experts in every one of those fields, and we read them independent of one another. So we don't collaborate and say, oh, did you see this? Or did you see the word he used there? Or I wonder if there's a stressor there. We don't do that. You pull your report together. He puts his report together. I put my report together, and they should all mirror one another. And that's how we do it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it sounds extremely thorough, because obviously without being able to do the voice analyzations and all that, you're not going to be able to accurately assess whether or not he's being truthful. But you could say that he is showing signs that are consistent with somebody who has not been truthful.
There are okay. So we have 27 what we call points of interest in 6 channels. Each one of the channels of communication, face, body, physiology, content, face. We have what we call points of interest in each one of those channels that are proven in research, have been validated in science and vetted in the field of deceptive indicators. So I know what to look for, and he is giving you deceptive indicators. So now what you have to do is this. Content is one of the channels. You have to know what was the stimulus, what's the content behind the story. So now you can put together the story, and is it incongruent? You're looking for the incongruencies between these. So, body, that's why I have a real hard time when people just pull out a non-gesture or a nonverbal gesture and going, oh, well, that person's this, or they're doing that. No, that's not what it is. And it really, it diminishes the real validated science in nonverbal communication when people are doing that. So I guess I'm real stickler on this, and I don't just call people out until I have more information. I think this Mr. Allen, and I've seen a lot of his, has shown me that he is a more polished liar. He's a little bit more skilled, and he's able to control more of his nonverbals. But where he is not able to control it is in his mouth. And that's where I see a lot of the leakages.
Right. See, I love that you just said what you said, because I feel like I'm, I one thing that I noticed about him is he seems to have real control over showing emotion through his eyes. Whereas he's probably, I mean, he's a cop and he's on fugitive task force. It's his job to catch liars. And he probably looks for your basic liar through their eyes, I would imagine, through his experience and through his job. So he is putting forth a very conscious effort to control his eyes and what he shows through them. But he's leaking, in your opinion, through these micro, what did you call them?
Well, actually, they're micro expressions, but I'm seeing it in his face. These are they're just little anomalies that are happening within his mouth, and it's showing his emotions. See, there are 42 muscles in our face, not to get too techie, but they have to fight. There are certain emotions like sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, etc. There's 7 of them. And then there's also additional ones that are not necessarily validated, but there's still a lot of research behind it. I know what muscles have to fire in his face to tell you if it's authentic or not. Okay, so I know if he's really like the other girl, she was sowing the seething. Boy, that was certainly anger, disgust, and contempt altogether. No doubt about it. He, on the other hand, the fact that he's got his eyebrows are frozen and staying up, showing attention, the duration of that held expression is considered being convinced rather than convey. You think about President Clinton. Let me tell you this right now. Eyes open, eyebrows up, right? So even though his
Okay.
eyes remain neutral, his eyebrows stay up. That's not normal. Eyebrows come down, they move. They become frustrated. They might lift, they might flash. They might come inward because they're concerned. You might see horizontal lines across the forehead. There's a lot of muscles that move. It's called the facial action coding system. So when I'm reading a person's face, I'm analyzing it different than somebody else might. Because I'm saying, is that an authentic emotion or is that an inauthentic emotion?
Huh.
So I'm looking at that from that mindset and the duration of the
And
held
obviously,
emotion.
if it's inauthentic, it's a sign of
Deception.
deception is the word I was
Right.
absolutely looking for.
Right.
And hopefully we have time after we get through this, but I want to get your take on Karen. So I'm probably look for some points where the camera's on Karen and how she's looking, and because she doesn't seem to hide her contempt for what's happening to her. She's
Right.
not putting
Well,
on an act for the jury at all.
no.
She seems to just be perfectly comfortable with reacting to things that are happening. I sat directly behind her in the courtroom,
Oh.
and she and I was sitting next to her mother, and she would turn around and be like, give her mom a look like, jury sees this. The jury is parallel, like facing the space between us and her. So when she turns around and looks at us, they see the profile of her expressions and what she's doing with it. She doesn't even care that the jury sees this. Her attorneys don't seem to care that she's doing it. So to me, in my inexperience, to me, the layman, it seems like that's somebody who genuinely has nothing to hide. She's not putting on an act for a jury like most guilty people who are sitting on trial.
Okay. Remember when I mentioned to you about expressions of defensiveness or anger? If you were falsely accused, what would your responses be?
I don't think that I could hold back. That's another reason why I feel that she's genuine, is because I don't think that I could handle, at least not having some sort of physical, like, what?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't think that I could control that.
That is the correct answer. So when a person is falsely accused, you will show anger. So I analyzed Karen, and she does carry her emotion on her sleeve. She doesn't try to prohibit them. She shows a lot of contempt, which is when the mouth goes like this.
Yeah.
Okay, she's literally saying BS. That's BS.
Right.
That's actually what we call moral superiority.
She will sit there and shake her head and be like, "That's bullshit."
Yeah. Right. So she's non-verbally communicating to that jury of her disagreement.
Right.
So and not only that, what I noticed most about her is her level of confidence.
Right.
Her level of confidence.
And
so,
it's genuine, because I mean, I was there you know, we went to lunch, and the way that she spoke to me was absolutely totally like, can you believe this shit? You know, like, have you been like, she knows, she watches the show, I guess, and she knows how I feel about it. So I guess she, you know, was expressing to me. Now, I guess that could have been, you know, part of her whole deception, but I just did not get that vibe. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I can sense when people, and I think it's real. You know, some people might think I'm crazy, but I can sense toxicity. I can sense it. I don't know. I can't pinpoint it and say this person did this or this person did that. I'm saying that I can sense that they have a vibe about them that my energy's not going to get anything out of it positive. So, you know, it's better to keep my distance. You know what I mean? But I didn't get that from her. She was absolutely she was just very kind, very confident, but also very, very driven, because it's almost as if she obviously hates what's happening to her, but she's also like, okay, you want to fight? Let's fight, you know, because this is not supposed to be happening to me. That's the vibe that I get from her.
And I that is the vibe I feel that she does present. Her overall demeanor is one that she's not going to be taken advantage of. She is not going to tolerate it, and she's going to fight back like a bulldog. And it is written all over her face, her level of confidence. What I can tell you is that based on all of the observations that I had seen in her demeanor, she believes what she's stating is her truth. So when we listen to that, watch
she
her
at
demeanor.
least believes it. Yes.
She at least believes what she's stating to be truthful to her is truthful.
Right.
So,
And I make this observation a lot myself with people who are just genuinely toxic, and they lie so fluently, right? That it's like they don't care that they're getting caught. And I honestly believe, talking to them or listening to them talk, that if you put them on a lie detector test, they pass, because they believe these lies so fluently coming out of their mouth.
You know why that is? You know why that
No.
is? Because it happens physiologically in the brain. When they have analyzed through MRIs of where the brain lights up when a person lies, you will see, I don't remember exactly where it is, when the brain will light up. It lights up when they're being deceptive. But the more they've gotten away with it, when they've lied, the less it lights up. So it's almost as if they have literally changed their brain chemistry.
Wow.
That's
what?
Yeah, like change their brain chemistry. That's why they can lie so flawlessly.
That feels like some quantum physics shit right there.
Well, it's in my new book I talk about. Think about Santos. Santos could lie. He did just an interview with Dr. Phil, and he sat there and lied, and Dr. Phil just is actually literally dumbfounded that this guy was so transparently deceptive. And if you were to probably do an MRI or whatever, the brain scan on him, you would notice that he has lied so much. He literally the parts, the normal receptors in his brains are not even responding anymore. Or they don't respond as much. That's why they say that's how they become very pathological.
So you can actually see through the MRI their brain pattern changing.
Yeah, it's like a SPECT scan. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is insane. That's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Let's see what else we got from O'Brien here, because I noticed that his eyes and his eyebrows, they never change, and like his eyebrows seem like a point of pride to him too. Looks like he might even groom them. So it's interesting.
He could have had Botox.
Maybe.
No, seriously, because if he strikes me as the kind of guy that can look angry, and maybe he did. I mean, I got to tell you, a lot of people do. Is those people that have those furrowed brows, or that they know that they're going to be testifying. I have
I
Botox, like
feel
they can raise your eyebrows. So when you have that done, and I'm not saying he did, it
right.
naturally gives you a lift and it stays there. It doesn't move.
I feel like as if he I feel like when it comes to some people, and I've got the same feeling from Jen McCabe too, and maybe I'm just being judgmental, but I feel like my experience with people being on this earth for almost half a century, um, I feel like there's some people, no matter how much they try to hide it, even through their smile, you can see their anger, no matter how much they try to hide it. I feel like this is the case with Brian Albert. I feel like he's making an effort to look kind of clueless, kind of like okay, I don't and be kind of use ignorance to be his defense mechanism, more or less here.
And
But
he's wearing
you
a
can
sweater.
you can see the contempt that he has just for
Yeah.
who dares ask him those questions.
Right. And
Much
and
like
and
Jen
you can
McCabe.
the contempt can be seen in the eyebrows too. So, when you think of contempt, the staring eyes where it's a form of intimidation. That's not contempt, but the contemptuous expression can be seen in an eyebrow, like one eyebrow will lift higher than the other one is like you're a skeptic or you're more cynical. He does have that air about him. I think he's got, cop written all over him. I mean, he's got that look. And
Right.
a lot of times officers, as you stated earlier, have got to maintain that neutral affect because they don't want to appear to
Well, they're playing poker
to yeah, their
for the
poker
truth.
face. Yeah, well, not yeah, that, and also too, they don't want to show their emotions, that they're showing that weakness in front of a possible perpetrator or a person that's
Right.
committed a crime.
Because
So they want to create they're standing their ground. They have to create that kind of wall of protection, chest out, that kind of cocky look. So, that's part of, and how long has he been a cop? He's been practicing this a long time.
right. And then he comes to court dressed like a Bible salesman, knowing that he doesn't, that everyone knows he doesn't dress like that, which it always blows my
Right.
mind when people do that. Like, you
Well,
ever notice guilty defendants tend to wear glasses all the time when they
Well,
they don't wear glasses, but then they show up to court wearing glasses because somehow it makes them look more innocent to the juries, supposedly.
yeah, the Menendez brothers did that same thing
Right.
too.
Right.
So, and I have to tell
Jody
you,
Arias too. Jody Arias did
Jody
as well.
Arias, they do that. And, I have to, in full transparency, I worked within that area of wardrobing the defendants for trial. So that's how I started in witness prep.
Wow.
So I was preparing and doing witness prep for defendants for the Seminole County Public Defender's
Oh,
Office.
so you were on the dark
I was
side, and
on the
now
other
you're.
side. Well, I play both sides, but I created the
Most
clothing center for
attorneys,
them.
most attorneys do too.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of the whole
Yeah,
thing.
of
And
course.
I would say, okay, how do you want them presented? Well, what's the good thing and what's the bad thing about him? Okay, well, he's got this very intimidated look. We better put him in a fabric or soft sweater so that it kind of deminimizes his physical intimidation. I'll put him in colors that don't show dominance and control and power. So, there's a lot of, this is what I talked about at CrimeCon, about what happens behind the scenes when there's a big high profile trial. What do we do as trial consultants behind the scenes? And this is one of them. Part of this witness prep and their presentation of what their image looks like. And not only just them, but the people that are with them, the people that are in the gallery, their friends and their family. What do they look like? Do they mirror the image of the person who is taking the stand as a defendant or a witness?
Huh. Wow. Jesus. This is all very insightful. Thank you.
That you got rid of your phone on the 22nd.
I upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but yes.
Okay, so right there, like he does this a lot too, where he corrects a word where he says he knows that Jackson is fishing for him to admit that he got rid of his phone, but he'll say and look at the jury and speak into the mic and say, I upgraded my phone.
Right.
And he does this quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's again, that's a person that has to have a control of the dialogue. You know, we saw the same thing with Murdoch. You know, these very skilled professional, and he's probably testified many times before as a cop, right? So they know how to dodge the questions, take control of it, and then don't allow. I mean, Jodi Arias, remember Jodi Arias?
So yeah, she
Jodi
thought she
Arias
was
did it
slick.
with every single question that was asked of her. She would do the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean she was planning from the very beginning, from her first interview, already setting up for an insanity plea, possibly by doing handstands, and that was all clearly a show for the surveillance cameras that were inside the interview room.
Yeah,
at least I believe so.
It could have been after the 22nd.
I don't think it was after the 22nd.
Could have been the 24th.
No.
Could have been the 25th.
No.
So you're absolutely sure that you could not have upgraded your phone and gotten rid of it anytime after the 23rd when this judge ordered that it be preserved?
No.
Because you know that if you got rid of that phone after you had been notified that you were ordered by a court to preserve
it was right
you'd
there.
be committing a felony.
I caught that too.
Yeah, see where he turned his head to the other side and saw the chin pop up and then the lips
Yeah,
again. So
right.
that was a little cluster, but that was all in nonverbal. So he said, no, remember that we have to look for both verbals and nonverbals and clusters, and all we heard or saw were the nonverbals. But the difference is that normally when he'd answer the question, he would turn his head to the one side, speak into the microphone. Here's what's really cool. It'd be interesting to find out what side's his dominant side and which is his non-dominant side. Because when he disagrees, he may be using his non-dominant side. So, in other words, if someone were to speak, let's say a president or anyone they did a lot of work in the presidential elections and watching the debates, when they agreed with something and they were passionate about, they would use one hand, and then when they disagreed, they would use the other hand, their non-dominant hand. But you can also do the same thing in the body. You saw the shift where his head was tilted one way. What caused the shift to come here when the microphone is on the other side?
Yeah.
So that was a disagreement. That was a disagreement because it went to his opposite side.
Let's check that out one more time. Let's watch it in slow-mo because they've got it to the right speed, I think, or to the right part.
Notified.
Right there.
Exasperation. That's exasperation.
Court
That's exasperation.
Yeah,
preserve it. You'd be committing a felony.
Check.
So him turning his head to the side.
To the opposite side. See,
Of the microphone, from the microphone.
Because now we were able to establish his baseline. His baseline was speaking into the microphone, the opposite direction. When the question shifted, which became much more adversarial, he then shifted to the other side. So anytime you see shifts, there's a shift of change of mind.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. When you find a person's baseline and then there's a shift of state of mind. So we can tie that to the stimulus, which was the more probative questions regarding that phone.
Okay. Yeah, he's okay. No, everything that you just said makes perfect sense.
And then he was exasperated because before that, what did he do? He went like this. When the dimple, the lip corner dimples, that was
exactly. Yeah,
exasperation.
Exactly what you mean there. Yeah.
Sustained.
Okay, so here's Allie McCabe.
34 Fairview on January.
And that would be Jen and Matt McCabe's daughter. Excuse me.
29th.
I don't remember specifically, but I would believe I drove up Fairview.
Now, I felt like she was lying real bad, but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this.
then sorry, I don't know.
Now, is it true? I remember seeing this movie called The Negotiator, where the main character tells of someone lying by when they look up, if they look up to the right, they're accessing one side of their brain,
Yeah.
and then the creative side, and then the left side, they're accessing the memory part of the brain.
Right.
And
That's
that would
debunked.
indicate.
Debunked science.
Okay, so
22
it's
out of 23 peer-reviewed research articles have debunked it's not true. But what it does tell us is how they process. If the person looks up, their visual processors. If their eyes go side to side, they're auditory processors. If their eyes go down, they tend to be more emotional processors. What we've seen here, though, is something that's a little bit different. Her eyes are going up, right? And her eyes will shift from side to side. She's searching and she's uncomfortable, and that's what's causing this kind of odd like lift strain in her cheeks. See, these muscles are a little tightened.
right.
Those are tightened muscles, slightly tightened. And then she has what we call a vocal burst. A vocal burst is where you kind of giggle, slightly giggle, or like that. Those are words expressed by an emotion of a sound. So there's, when you start breaking this down, I see that she's highly uncomfortable. She is not comfortable with the question. She's not very fast on her feet to answer questions. So when she's asked a question, there's competition that's going on. Should I say this or should I say that? And that's what's causing the delay. She's having this dialogue inside of her in her mind. Should I say this or should I say that? Which is corresponding with her eyes looking up, trying to search for an answer.
Huh. Wow.
No, the streets.
If I suggested to you that the street closest to 34 Fairview was Cedar Crest and the one on the other side is Chapman, does that refresh your memory?
Yeah, so Chapman.
Okay, so
I
you would have
believe.
gone up and gone to Chapman and taken a right or a left?
Really bad with directions. When I got there, I went to the center of town, his house. I don't know specifically which way. I'm trying to think of it. I can't picture it.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Washington Street in Canton?
Yes.
Would you have wound up on Washington Street?
Yes.
All right. And you're aware
stop
that
right
the Canton
there.
Library is on the corner of Washington
Stop
and
right
Sherman?
there. Now, when she was answering those last two questions, you could see that was her truthful baseline.
Okay, let's.
So when you go back and watch the other ones, and then you see when she's answering the questions very quickly and confidently, that's her normal truthful baseline. So anything outside of that, you're looking at comparing that and you're going, why is she responding so confidently here and then not so confidently here? Is it because she really doesn't know the names of the streets? She really is bad at directions and she gets embarrassed and that's why she smiles? Or why is there the delay? Now we've associated, this is me, Susan Constantine, the body language expert. I've now determined her natural truth baseline and when she's now what we call when she's being inconsistent from that baseline. So now
so
I know going
You have
forward,
something to compare it to.
I have something to compare it to.
I love it.
All right. And you're aware that the Canton Library is on the corner of Washington and Sherman Street? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you would have passed by the.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
What she did was she was asked a question. Remember I told you when her eyes went up? She's a visualizer. She looked up and she goes, yes. And she
Right.
nodded her head exactly at the same point. That was her truthful baseline.
That makes perfect sense.
The library?
Yes.
Same thing.
And yeah, there seemed to be a relief, like a sense of comfort that came over her to where she could answer a question truthfully. And just being able to do that made her comfortable. Just for a split second is what it seemed like.
With regard to whether you went straight home. Did you, by the way, when you went home, did you stay there?
Yes, I believe so.
Now,
I believe so. That's not certain.
right, right, and Yannetti's fun, because Yannetti has his little tactics too. I feel like Yannetti has this whole, you know, almost like Clark Kent in the original Superman movies, just very, very goofy. But that's the analogy I gave before. Is just kind of goofy and clumsy, but it's all an act, and under the radar, he'll like use his super breath and freeze something, and oh my goodness. But he's always, I'm so sorry, excuse me, and he's very he comes off really, really, really almost ignorant, almost, but he knows exactly what he's doing, and it's his way of eliciting emotional responses from people. He wants to annoy them to the point to where they answer the questions, which seems really fun. It's fun to watch.
That there was a time when John O'Keefe was not home, that you and your wife Julie went to his house.
That is correct.
And you entered onto his property, correct?
On his front property, yes.
And you had drinks in your hand.
Correct.
And you thought it would be funny to have a photo taken of you and your wife with drinks in your hand on his property, correct?
Correct.
And you knew it would be funny because you knew it would annoy him, correct?
Objection.
Yeah, lots of wow.
Lots of physical stuff, right?
Yeah. So, well, let me tell you about that. Okay, the ears and the nose. First of all, he does this little agreement gesture, like when somebody's feeling a little bit attacked. What do?
Yeah.
Okay, come on, tough guy, or they adjust their tie or whatever. What happens when they start touching their face is not that it's a deceptive indicator, but here's the science behind it. When you are under pressure and you are about to lie or going to tell a lie, what happens is that you already know that, and you already subconsciously know that, and you're going to be going off and creating a new dialogue or a new scenario. Subconsciously, you know that, and it creates this physiological response, almost like a fear response, and then the blood rushes away from the capillaries, the ears, the face, to the extremities, because that's what we call fight or flight. When you do that, it causes this irritation around your nose because the blood is leaving those small little capillaries. And so that's why you're starting to itch. So that's where that Pinocchio response comes from.
Yeah, it seemed like as soon as he got the objection, it gave him a sense of relief to where he felt comfortable itching wherever he, like he was trying to hold back from doing that. And then the moment that it's almost as though he gets bailed out for a second by the objection. And I see this a lot, not just with him, but with everybody. Once Lally objects, they go, oh, they start to adjust and, do this and that. And
then you're off the hook.
Right. Just for a second.
House while he was away.
Right, but that doesn't answer my question, which was he didn't ask you to go onto his property with drinks in your hand and take a photo, correct?
He asked us to watch his property.
Okay, but again, in answer to my question, the answer is no, he did not ask us to go on his property and take pictures of ourselves with drinks in our hand, correct?
Yeah, he didn't ask me to send him a photo.
How'd you get those injuries, Robert?
Yeah, this
I
is
was
very
at
fascinating.
a party, my house party, my senior year, and I remember it being icy out, and it was kind of like a steep hill of a driveway, and I was walking up the driveway, and I slipped down the driveway, and I tried to catch myself, but I had something in my left hand, so I tried to brace myself with my right hand, and I ended up sliding a little bit down the driveway.
What'd you have in your left hand?
If I remember, it was either my phone or a beverage.
Yeah, so right there it got busted.
You fell on ice.
See, I have a problem with this one,
Okay.
and I have for some time. And the reason is I love how the prosecutor or was it the defense attorney was asking him about what he had in the other hand, because if he fell, he said he fell and that's how he scraped his knuckles. It also could have been when he punched somebody, right?
Right.
So I mean, it looks like he's gotten into a bar fight when you look at it. So the only other explanation would be and it is plausible that he could have slipped on the ice and scraped it. And then it's interesting that he still was hanging on to whatever it was when he fell rather than dropping what he had. And then he was asked what he did with the other hand, and then he paused. There was like this hesitation. And then he was
Right.
trying to figure out what it was, and he said it was a cell phone. So, here's a real answer. Because you know what? I don't really know. It happened so fast.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I
why
thought
did you
that
feel you
too.
needed to give an answer? Why did you feel like you had to have an explanation unless he felt like
Yeah.
he had to?
I when I went over this the first time, because I've been covering this thoroughly, and when I went over this the first time, I thought the same thing. I was like, you could have just been like, I don't even know, I don't even remember. And he uses this excuse to dodge questions throughout this entire cross-examination. I don't remember, I don't recall, and you could tell that he's trained by somebody to do that.
Yeah, well, those are deceptive indicators. Those are typical statement analysis. I don't recall, sometime thereafter, I don't remember. And it's an easy way for them not to be pigeonholed into anything. And you think about it, if you don't want to be pigeonholed into something, you just say, I just don't recall.
Right. Sure. But you're making an excellent point here when you're saying why the need to come up with a story on
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why it's yeah. So right there, that just tells me he's lying. And the story is ridiculous in and of itself. You know, it's just it doesn't make sense.
Do you think that it's possible that he got into a fist fight with O'Keefe?
I think it's very possible. There's motive there. There's a lot of history that makes that very plausible. Considering that, I mean, all of Chris Albert's testimony and who's I forget his wife's name already. But their testimony, they're sitting there saying that they called John O'Keefe the Never Cracker or something like that, which is a character, somebody that says "get off my lawn," the "get off my lawn" guy. Supposedly this kid, there was a problem with him because they were neighbors, and so there was a problem with him throwing empty beer cans into his yard, walking across his yard, not having any respect, walking through his yard and giving him the finger, and so and then also, that's his name stored into their phones. Nevercracker, the nickname of John O'Keefe. So there was a lot of tension that seemed to be building up between specifically Colin Albert and John O'Keefe. But I could see his uncle Brian Albert being very protective of him because they are extremely close. And Brian Albert is an MMA guy and a tough guy, and this kid likes to act real tough all over the internet. And he lied straight up and said that he's never been in a fight before. And Turtle Boy has resurfaced at least 2 videos of him actually fighting. So he's lying. Just there's not even a question that he's lying. It has nothing to do with body language when it comes to that. It's just he's caught in these lies. But it's interesting to see he looks very reserved. His posture is poor, and it doesn't see.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because when you see his shoulders slumped, it's low confidence, and you can also note that with his head down, eyes up. So this is a person that has low confidence. Think about it. shrug your shoulders forward, and then he's got his head down and he's looking up with his eyes. It's a low confidence, and it's almost when I'm looking at this, it's like he's suspicious. So not that he's suspicious, he looks as if he's being suspicious because of his head down, eyes up. So it's almost like a form of it's not an actual term, but the head blocking. It's almost like a visor here with the eyes up. That there is a disguise. It's like almost wearing a visor over your eyes. So you see that with him, and that's just this kind of mystique that he has, but the low confidence tells me he's just not feeling confident in his answers. Now he
Yeah.
could feel he's not feeling confident with his answers, and that's why you see the head down, eyes looking up, because it's almost that sheepish kind of appearance.
Right. He's got kind of a Menendez-y vibe to him, doesn't he?
Yeah, it does.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And injured your knuckles, as we just saw in that photograph, right across the top of your knuckles.
Correct.
So you fell onto what, pavement, asphalt?
Yes.
And you braced yourself when you fell, your entire body weight, by putting your right hand down in a fist, and you injured your right fist, just the top of the knuckles on your right fist when you fell down.
Correct.
All right. See what he did?
Seriously?
What he did was he said correct, and then he shifted back over. So remember, anytime a shift is a shift of some sort of cognitive processing, why did he shift from one side to the other? Now, I do think that
I'm sorry, Susan. I'm going off camera just for a second, but I can
Yep.
still hear you. Just keep talking, okay? I just have
Okay.
to. Got a dog here, and it's. Give me one second, but please keep talking.
No, what I was noting with him is that when he's answering the question, I do think that when he was answering, nodding his head yes, he was saying it before he actually said yes. So that is an affirmative for me, because truthful people, you'll see the head nod start before they actually say the answer. So that followed, that was in sync. What happened is that I think that he probably did scrape his hand of some sort. So there's partial truth there, but then he flipped over. So we don't know how he scraped it. Could have been in some sort of fight or whatever. And then when he shifted his head over to the other side, tells me that there was something that shifted in his thoughts. So anytime I see this shift, there's a shift in thoughts, especially when it moved from way here, from way over here. And that's what I saw in this clip.
Huh. I could see that he's and I want to go back to the lack of confidence thing that you were saying. He seems to absolutely have and there's characteristics like in his behavior that indicated to me that he was somebody of probably some low confidence. Probably gets razzed on a lot by his dad and his uncle, I would assume. But I don't think that he's a tough guy, but he wants to present the image that he is. He seems very, very concerned with impressing his friends and having a certain image, trying to live up to the image that his uncle puts out there, because his family is very well known locally. So, and they're afraid of it. People are afraid of this family. So he has to put up that image. But when you watch him fight, he can't fight. You know, he doesn't come off as an angry person. He comes off as a scared person. If you were to ask me if I thought he was dangerous, yes, I believe he's dangerous, but not because he's angry. He's one of those dangerous people because they're afraid, just generally afraid all the time. That's the vibe I get from him.
Huh. Well, you're a guy and you would pick that up too, because you know, but when I'm looking at him, I don't see what we call dangerous intent. But I think a guy just kind of picks up on those guy things more than I would. So I'm wondering if we could move on to Karen, because I'm going to need to jump off here in just a tad bit.
All
Or
right, let's do that.
where you want me to look.
Give me 1 second and I'll put up some it's not going to be hard to find that. All I got to do is just pull up a court hearing, and where, okay, so here, no, I'm not sure what the context is.
A few of the photos from this set.
Okay. And she's annoyed, obviously.
Right. So this looks like he's going to show pictures of this tail light, and she's looking like she's just going to have to sit through these pictures. Here, watch. She says something to Yannetti. She laughs, and she's just like, you see that? Like,
Yeah.
This is just ridiculous.
This is,
Look at
and then that's a real emotion. Remember, I was talking about the onset and offset of emotion.
Right.
Did you see where she smiled and then she kind of came up and she was still smiling when she came back? That was a natural, normal onset, offset of emotion. So when people are faking it, when you see Koberger, what does he do? He does this to his attorney.
Yeah, this is this is, here we go. Let's see what she's. So this is after they just sat there and showed these, and they're at sidebar. But I noticed this. She's always trying to figure out what's happening at sidebar. She never looks like she's off on some other planet in thought. She is extremely attentive to everything that's happening. Like, you never see her slipping. You never see her just, zone off. I was sitting directly behind her, and she was constantly writing stuff down, taking notes. She's extremely involved in this defense, extremely involved in the decision making that takes place. See right there, it sounds like she's overhearing something, but it looks
she's
like
overhearing stuff, and there's times where she's lifting her head. So it's right here, right there. So I don't know if there's something that's on the screen that she's trying to have to look up to. Usually when we see that, it's called a chin boss, so that's kind of superior. But I don't think that's what that is there.
You
I
are
think that
unmuted.
she is trying to see what's going on over there, as if you're peering your head up over a counter. That's what I'm seeing her do. But she is very aware. She is in the moment. She's very attentive of what's going on.
Right.
If you wouldn't have known she was a defendant, you would have thought she was an attorney.
I agree 100%. So, I mean, yeah, Yannetti's in her ear telling her something, and then it's just.
Sergeant, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
Items that were located in the street, being the black
All
cocktail
this is
drinking
just
straw.
exasperation, disagreement. Anytime these little jerky movements like that is just disagreement. I would love to have heard what was being spoken to correlate it. Plus, we didn't know what the attorney had said to her. We're missing that information. So we're missing some pieces here to thread it together.
There's I'm trying to find specifically a part where she discusses things that happen, or he discusses things that happened when he went to her home, or her parents' home.
So you have zero. Hang on.
And that might have happened way earlier here. Oh, well, actually, it happened the day before. I'm in the wrong one. But But yeah, I was sitting behind her, and she I was sitting behind her, and she when he was describing a situation that was taking place at her parents' house, she of course reacted and went back and was talking to her mom, and then she just kind of sat back like, uh-huh, because she really wants them to look her in the face as they lie. She soaks that in,
Yeah.
you know.
She's confrontational. I mean, she is not going to
Very.
put up. Yeah, she's like a bulldog. You're not going to tell me. And she doesn't intimidate. I don't see her intimidating, but I do look at her like she's skeptical. Like you can see it all over her facial expressions, the tightening of her eyebrows. She does that a lot, and she peers at him.
Right.
She
Right.
freezes her, and she eye locks with him.
She does.
Mhm.
I mean, because again, I was sitting directly behind her, so it was very easy for me to make absolute eye contact with whoever was sitting on the stand. Um, and even me, I couldn't help it because I'm listening to these people lie, and I'm going, "Oh, this is way better than streaming them because they can see me now. They can see me looking at them, going, dude, you are a liar." But I mean, Karen has to do this every single day. Now, what I find interesting about the observation that you just made about her being confrontational, this normally would be a bad look for her in her defense. But what seems to this is what makes it seem either a genius defense or just what makes her seem innocent to me is the fact that she's not afraid to look confrontational in front of this jury. She feels that the truth is going to be what exonerates her. It doesn't matter what the jury thinks of her as a person. She doesn't care about that. She cares about, okay, you know what? I don't care. Like I let them know that I'm confrontational because I am not taking the fact that I'm being falsely accused of murder here lightly, and
Right.
she wants the jury to see this. It's fascinating.
She's non-verbally trying her own case in front of that jury.
Pretty much. Yeah. And it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. So anyway, let's try to wrap this up because I am going to call it an evening, if you don't
Okay.
mind. And we can always pick up another time. So in
Oh.
close, do you have something you wanted me to see or share with me? before we-
No, I think that's about it.
Okay.
I was looking at chat to see if there's a question that I could just pick out of the bunch
Sure.
and have you answer, but I don't see one just yet. So if somebody's got a question, they better type it in quick. But everybody seems to just be grateful that you're here. I am extremely grateful that you did this. Thank you so much. And
You're
raised a lot
welcome.
of money. Raised a lot of money for Karen's defense, and I know for a fact that she appreciates it. Having met her in person and speaking to her, she is genuinely grateful for all of the support that everyone is showing, and it's simply just because people are, as you said, interested in the truth, and that's it. Wanting to get to the truth. And so that's all she seems to ask of anybody, which is why I absolutely believe, one of the many reasons why I believe she's innocent.
Well,
So,
the final, I'll leave it with this one here. The final verdict with my group at CrimeCon, 4,000. The last one was after I showed them all these key points of evidence, which was the tail light, it was Alan's testimony, it was a firefighter saying, I hit him versus did I hit him? Or, I showed all these little key points of evidence. The end result was the overwhelmingly not guilty. So that was
wow.
4,000 people in a group. And we did a little mock jury trial right there on the fly. And many of them didn't even know anything about the case. So it was interesting to see how quickly their first impressions helped to decide whether they thought these persons were credible or not credible just in an instant. And it really hits home because that's how quickly we make decisions. And those jurors have already made up their mind after the opening statement. That's what the research says. 80% of all jurors made up their mind after the opening statement, at the end of the opening statement.
Yeah, because
So-
I made it a point to really watch that jury. I mean, if you're in that room, you're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I watched that jury, and I'm telling you, within 5 minutes of being in that room and watching them, I could tell you there's no way that group of jurors is going to unanimously convict Karen Reed.
They'll have it. Well, it'd be interesting to find out. You know, you never know with juries. But thank you so much. But I had burned my hand on the oven before we came. So
Oh my
sitting
God,
here
I'm sorry.
This whole time with my hand sitting on a bag of ice. If you see me moving around, so
Oh my goodness, I'm so
it's time
sorry.
to refill. That's okay. I've enjoyed it very much. So you
Same
guys
here.
keep doing the good work.
Extremely insightful. Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Right. Susan Constantine, everybody. Wow. Guys, I gotta tell you, man. I hope that you got as much out of that as I did. I was fascinated with everything she was telling me. I did not know 90% of the stuff that she was talking about, and it was just really fun to like have this conversation with her and compare the instincts to the science, because all of us have these instincts of seeing someone sit there and lie. We've been watching this together. We've been watching this trial together and going, that motherfucker is lying. And to hear the science behind those instincts that we seem to all have collectively have had was great. To me, that is incredibly valuable. So I'm really glad that we got to do this. Nick and Jenna Rocco, thank you guys for putting this together. Thank you for thinking of me to host it. I hope I did a good job. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I am really grateful that I got to have that very insightful conversation with her. So thank you guys for putting that together. Big shout out and thank you to Cherry for putting together. We only got to go through half of it, big thank you to Cherry for putting together all of that in the clips together. Very well done. Yeah, man, thank you guys again so much for joining me. I am going to wrap this up. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys for raising so much money for Karen's defense. I guarantee you that she's going to be grateful for it. She's already grateful to all of you guys and your support and all of us who have been doing and saying and speaking our minds on this. I know that her family's very grateful. And I know that her team is very grateful. So you guys are fantastic. So thank you guys so much for your donations to Karen and her defense. Because as you can see in every court cross-examination, that money is well spent. So guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. I love you. And we will do this again very soon, my friends.